Hi, everybody. I'm immigration lawyer John Kasravi. We're here with my wonderful associate attorney, Anya Sergeyeva. Hi, Anya. How are you doing?
Hi, John. Hi, everyone. I'm not doing so well today because in the morning I had my braces appointment
Oh,
and I'm
no.
like kind of, yeah, and now I'm not dying, but I'm in pain. So all people who who wore braces, they know what I'm talking about.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry to
but
hear that. Yeah,
we
I'm
have to
supposed to
keep
get
it
braces.
going.
I'm supposed to get braces, but
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with it, so I'm just gonna not gonna. But thanks for coming for immigration talk episode 12. Today we have a fun episode, a lot of good information. Before we start, if you haven't already, like and subscribe where you're watching this, and leave comments and all that, so we see kind of information you're interested in. A quick note: we do make clips of all the information and videos we have on the JQK Law Firm YouTube page. We put them on a separate page called JQK Clips, JK Law Clips. You can check them all out there. Hundreds of very specific short videos that go to your questions and try to answer them. So check it out there. But let's get started. So today we're going to talk about two important things, really important things. The first one is regarding huge delays in immigration processing because people's files are stuck in a big cave, literally in a cave somewhere, and USCIS is not able to get them. We're going to talk about what that means. And secondly, talk about H-1B because the H-1B work visa is coming up. We're going to give an overview of what the process is about. It's complicated. We're going to try to do our best. And we'll talk about this a lot this month. So definitely stay tuned to the JK Law Firm social media pages to get a lot of information about the H-1B visa. So Anya, what is this cave about that USCIS says our case is stuck in? What's going on?
Yes, you don't believe that this would happen in the 21st century in the United States of America, like which is one of the most advanced countries, technologically advanced countries in the world. But this is what happened. So apparently, USCIS has like certain locations where they store their files, right? And a lot of these files, they're stored still on paper.
Mhm.
They don't transfer them into electronic format. Okay. And one of these places, I don't know, they rent from like National Archives and Records Administration or something like that. So a lot of A files, which is your complete immigration file with all like your history, they stored them near Kansas City, Missouri. And because of COVID, it's like underground, like John said, like cave, but it's like I don't know how it looks like, but it's underground, right? And because of COVID, they restrict the numbers of employees, they restrict the entry, and like people cannot get the files from there. And a lot of people who file, for example, for naturalization, and they report that those who filed for naturalization somewhere between March 2020 and June 2020, they may be affected by this problem. But it's not just citizen applications. For example, if you do FOIA request, which is Freedom of Information Act request, if you ask the government, the USCIS specifically, to provide a copy of your file, if you want to like do further submissions and you want to make sure that everything, everything looks good. Um, Problem with FOIA requests. Problem with other applications that require a file, because again, John will talk about this in more detail in a couple of seconds, but not all applications require for adjudicator to have an A file on hand.
Yeah, so when USCIS wants to make decisions, they usually want to have your entire file with them. But as you said, like a case like an I-750 removal of conditions we've seen, this is when someone has a 2-year green card and they got it through marriage. 2 years later, they have to submit additional paperwork to show that their relationship was a fake. It wasn't a fake marriage situation. And so for those, they could adjudicate. And we've seen cases where they don't have the whole file, but they base upon what we sent them and say, okay, we'll still approve it. So you can get away with that at I-751 one stage. But at citizenship, that's the final end of the immigration process. They can't make a decision unless they have the entire alien file or the A file. This is the number a non-resident has that tracks everything that they've done in one number. So you have it attached, and they need to have all that together before they make a decision on citizenship. So if you have one of those citizenship cases taking 2 years, I can't tell you for sure if this is the reason why our case is delayed so much, but for sure it's going to affect thousands and thousands of people, maybe tens of thousands of people filing for naturalization that had this delay. Maybe people for adjustment of status as well. So it never ends, the, the issues that pop up when you're dealing with
Yeah,
bureaucracy.
it never ends. We adjusted, like, other people adjusted, to COVID working online. Again, I understand you cannot do it online because it's actual paper file that someone, right, has to go there and find it and take it and send it, right, to local office or like National Benefit Center and so on and so on, right? But they started to reopen, I don't know, like a month ago or something. I'm not sure. Yeah, but still, before the pandemic, they used to get like 65,000 A files per month. Now they're getting it less than 10,000
Yeah. Oof, what a
from this
disaster.
specific place. Yeah, in Kansas City. Yeah.
So, we get a lot of comments, we get a lot of emails of people, why is my case taking this long? This may be the reason that your case is taking this long. So just something to keep in mind. And it's out of our control. I mean, there's nothing you can do. This is just unfortunately with COVID and the stuff that's happening. This is just part of it. It's frustrating, but it is what it is. So thank you for sharing that information, Anya. The next topic we're going to spend some time on is about the H-1B visa and what it is. Many of you have heard about the H-1 visa. It's one of the primary work visas for the United States. All these tech people you hear about, they got H-1Bs, and later on, a lot of them are able to get green cards after that. When you have a non-immigrant temporary work visa like an H-1B, it itself does not directly lead to a green card. The employer has to submit a separate green card application, and you don't even have to have an H-1B work visa to get a work green card. They're completely separate. Other countries have a transition program where you come temporarily, and that temporary part becomes permanent. But the US has, where you either do temporary or you do permanent, or you do temporary, and while that's pending, you do permanent, but they're not attached together. So that's the first thing. But Anya, generally, who qualifies for an H-1B visa?
Generally, highly skilled foreign professionals, they qualify for H-1B visas. Also, fashion models qualify for like special H-1, I think it's B3 subcategory, right? And there are a couple more, not so common.
Yeah, I think the former president's spouse was that until she got her EB-1A. These are alleged. We don't know exactly. But so we're talking about specialized knowledge. It's typically people who have 4-year degrees or master's degrees as well. They get special consideration. You got to be mindful, though. There are some countries who give, undergraduate, bachelor's degrees for 3 years, like in Southeast Asia. I'm sorry, South Asia, and we need to have a 4-year degree. So sometimes you have to match up the 3-year degree with the master's degree, or they allow work experience too. There's like a calculation of for every 4 years of work experience, you get 1 year of education equivalent. So there's some calculations and formulas you could do there. But if you have these education categories, and importantly, you have an employer that's going to file for you, you can potentially get into the green card lottery. So I get hundreds of emails asking, hey, I want to get a work visa. For most work visas in the United States, about 90% of them, you need to have an employer filing for you. So you need an employer that's going to say, I'm going to pay the fees, I'm going to submit the application on their behalf. It's not something you can do on your own. But one thing that happens is there's hundreds of thousands of people who want this visa, but there's not that many visas to go around. So they create what's called a lottery. Andy, could you help us understand how this lottery system works, and then add to that the new system that started 2 years or last year that they're doing right now with the raffle?
Right. So the cap, there is a cap. What is the cap? When US Congress authorized only 65,000 of H-1B visas to be issued per year, plus 20 additional thousand H-1B visas are reserved for those who graduated from US higher institution of higher education with a master's or higher degree.
Yeah.
Okay. And because I believe since 2000, after 2010, I'm not sure about this exactly, but USCIS has been seeing like increased demand in this H-1B visas.
Yeah.
And once they see that they have more people who want to get H-1B visa and they don't have enough visas available, that's where the H-1B lottery system comes out. And since 2010, there is a like totally new process how it works. Before 2010, I'm sorry, 2020. Before 2020, there used to be that you have to file the whole petition and then they get selected or not selected. You have to have all the paperwork ready even before you know that you were selected in the lottery. Now they make it easier. I believe they make it easier for everyone. So now you don't have to actually file H-1B petition and labor condition applications and so on before you get selected. So first thing, I will talk about the preparation because this is actually not the first step, but I will call it for now. First step is to register, to do the registration. USCIS announced that this year they're gonna open H-1B cap initial registration on March 1st, 2022 at 12 p.m. Eastern time. And they're gonna run it through March 18th, 2022. Yeah.
One note is if you're interested in it, you got to get started right now to prepare for it. Now, as you mentioned, like the preparation at first it could be just paying the $10 fee that's there and submitting some basic stuff, but you don't want to submit a case if you don't know it's going anywhere. So we usually have to do a full-on, essentially do the whole case, or at least do an outline of the whole case so that we know this case is going to go somewhere. It's not going to create a problem later on.
Right. And interesting thing about H-1B that if you don't get selected, for example, this year, last fiscal, not even fiscal year, but 2021, USCIS like did 3 rounds of H-1B selection. Yeah. So even if you don't get selected first time, there are chances that you might get selected second time if the USCIS does the second or third round.
Yeah. So they'll redo
again,
it. Say like,
we don't know that.
Yeah. Not of the people chosen, not enough submitted, so now we have more space, so we'll do it again. And it's really obnoxious somewhat. I mean, it's good if you get chosen, but they had 3 rounds last year. So, you know, in March or April, they decided, and then a couple months later, say we could get more. And then a couple months later, like in October even, they said, oh, we have more. By that point, a person might have
It was November. I think the third round was in November,
so
2021. Yeah.
Yeah, they moved on their lives, and all of a sudden they have this opportunity, but it really screws things up for them. Now, one note is we're talking about the cap right now. The cap is the limitation. There are cap exempt H-1Bs. These are people who work for, like research institutions or nonprofits. They like for universities, they can H-1B and not have to deal with the cap. So those are open-ended. That's possible for those. And using the word cap, there's another thing called cap gap. And this is for people who are F1 student visa holders. If you have an OPT, you're working, and you file for H-1B, if your OPT ends, you could continue working until October 1st when the official start date for the H-1B begins. Because even if you submit the case in March, you're accepted, and H-1B is approved, you technically can't work on the H-1B until October 1st, but cap gap allows you to continue. However, if you're on F1 student visa and you're during the grace period, you're allowed to be in the United States for like 2 months, but you can't work. And that's when your H-1B gets chosen and you submit stuff. You cannot work. You have to, because the grace period doesn't allow you to work, but the grace period gets extended until October 1st. So you can stay here in the meantime to go. And these are people in the United States. If you're outside, you will need to do consular processing for an H-1B visa, submit Form DS-160, and be subject to the delays and issues that could potentially pop up when you deal with the embassy. Administrative processing, the embassy not doing interviews or delays. There's a lot that could happen. So until you're here in the United States with the visa in hand and working, these cases are never done. And even then, sometimes someone emailed me today actually that they got a notice of intent to revoke. They say you didn't do the paperwork correctly. This isn't my case. It's someone other lawyer did it. The person contacted me, and they're like, "Oh wow, we had the H-1B working. Now we're getting a notice that it wasn't done properly, and they want to undo it by revoking it." So the issues never end when it comes to immigration. That's what we're here for, to kind of help you as much as possible because it's a very stressful process.
Right. So let's go over the preparation. So first thing that we do, as you mentioned earlier, John, you were talking about that you need to have like at least bachelor's degree, but actually this is not enough. Bachelor's degree, foreign bachelor's degree or US bachelor's degree does not qualify you automatically for H-1B. Right? It has to be like specialty occupation, like your actual job that requires like specialized knowledge, right? That like you cannot get it from, easy. I would say that. Okay, so we need to make sure that your job, proposed job, qualifies as specialty occupation. This is number one thing that we do. Then we need to talk with employer and see um, if they can pay the so-called prevailing wage. So what is the prevailing wage? It's certain threshold um, below which H-1B basically will not work because employer cannot pay less than that. And again, it was done primarily to protect American labor market.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if everything good with that, yeah, prevailing wage, it depends on location, it depends on experience, it depends on education, some special requirements, supervisory duties, and so on and so on and so on. So then after that, again, and the difference in pay may be like quite significant depending on experience, education, and so on. Next thing, we need to make sure that candidate's education matches the proposed position. It doesn't have to be like 100% match, right? But it has to be like at least close, I would say. Okay. Then we as attorneys, what we usually do, we need to make sure that the potential H-1B candidate is admissible to the United States. So what does it mean? It means that people with certain criminal history, they may not be admissible. It's a whole complicated topic that I don't want to dive into right now,
Yeah.
but you have to make sure that you are admissible in the United States. And if you're already here in the United States under like different non-immigrant status, we need to make sure that you qualify for the change of status. Because again, under current conditions, pandemic and so on, it probably would be better to do a change of status rather than do like consular process through the embassy. Yeah. So, and please make sure that you have valid unexpired passport. Generally, it's not that it is required for the H-1B registration. There is such an option that you can choose that like a passport number not available, but it's better to have it than not. So make sure that if your passport is expiring, make sure to renew it.
One note that you
Then
referenced regarding inadmissibility, one thing we see pop up for H-1B is people who had a J-1 visa. A J-1 visa holder, if they're subject to what's called a 2-year home residency requirement, they're not allowed to change status or even get the H-1B until they get done or waive the 2-year home residency requirement. And one of the primary ways you know that is you check your visa if it says subject to the 2-year residency requirement or not home residency, or the DS 2019. Sometimes the State Department makes mistakes on those two forms of visa. In the form DS 2019, it doesn't list it. So as a law firm, we always have to check what is the work that you did. Is this work that automatically gets hit by that? This is typically if you got money from the U.S. or your home country for this study that you're doing or research you're doing in the United States, or if you're from a certain country doing a certain type of work and experience in the United States, or if you're a medical student on J1, there's all these things that prevent you from getting the H-1B. I see it frequently when people are happy, they got an employer, wants to file for the H-1B, and then they come to my office and we realize they're subject to the 2-year home residence requirement. We have to get it waived first. And that takes a long time and they might miss the boat on things. So that's something to be careful of.
Right. And regarding the inadmissibility issue, I also want to mention something, but I forgot.
No problem.
I'll go back to it. Yeah, once I don't have something written in my notes, it just like flies somewhere, and I cannot keep track of it. Yes. So the next step would be for first time H-1B employers. If your employer has never filed H-1B petition, is to get their employer's identification number verified with the Department of Labor for future LCA, which is labor condition application. And this is easy process. There is no problem with that. It's done by email. You have to send an email to lca.chicago@dol.gov. You have to submit supporting documents such as Form SS4, which is IRS form that everyone who opens up a business should get at the beginning. But if you don't have this form, for example, if the employer doesn't have this form, some other documents can substitute this paper, such as like federal state tax return, business license, but basically anything that has this employer's identification number written in, like coming from like some third party. And this process usually takes like 3-7 business days. Okay, but again, because this year, most likely there will be a lot of H-1B applications, because just last year, USCIS received like more than 300,000 H-1B initial registrations.
Yeah.
And again, there are only 85 visas available. So, yes, the next thing that we need to do is we need to, in terms of preparation for H-1B, this is just the preparation part, right? Yeah. This is not the actual thing. We need to get the potential employee, H-1B employee, they have to get their foreign diplomas, transcripts, and their foreign credentials evaluated. It can take some time, again, so you better be doing it right now, somewhere in February. And again, you can use it later for something else. It's not that you're going to waste your money and time for that. John, I see that you're reading something, and it must be something very interesting.
Sorry, no, it's just the daily grind of this kind of stuff and deal with the embassies, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so again, the next step that we have to do to prepare for H-1B is I think that's it. I went over everything. Yeah, so the next time is registration itself. But before do the registration, you have to open up the online USCIS specific H-1B account. You cannot open this H-1B account, for example, now, because USCIS will allow it only this year, February 21st at 12 p.m. Eastern. They start allowing open this H-1B registration accounts for employers. So you have to do it in advance. Again, not to wait March
about
1st.
that is pretty annoying is that they make it so where if you have multiple employers filing for you, and that could be a problem, they could cancel you out of the system. There's lawsuits about that going on. Or, you can't game the system by having like one employer file and register for you 5 different times. That'll cancel you out. So be careful. They don't allow any games with this, and you don't want to lose your chance. This is just another way that the problem can get mixed up. So just be mindful of that happening. Multiple registrations could be a big problem. Thank you, Anya, so much. It's a complicated topic. It's extra complicated the way they design.
Boring. I know it's boring.
But people want to know. And so thank you so much. If you guys haven't already, gals haven't already, please like and subscribe wherever you're watching this to get more updates. Check out the JK Law YouTube page and the JK Law Clips page for a lot of information, as well as other social media. And if you're interested in scheduling a consultation, just email the office info@jqklaw.com and briefly describe the immigration issue that you have, and we can take it from there. Thank you all for listening, and thank you, Anya, for everything.
Thank you, John. Thank you, everyone, for watching. And please give a like to this video. And personally, I will feel so much better if you do that. So see you in the next videos. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching this educational program. To get the latest videos, click the subscribe button and the notification bell icon. Also, help us help the immigrant community by liking this video and sharing it with your family and friends. You can also find us on other social media sites like Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Twitter, where you find the latest updates on immigration news, policy changes, and tips. Be safe and God bless. See you soon.